Hey everybody, how's it going? Quick review today. This is a book called Tender is the Flesh. Hopefully you can see that all right, by Augustina Bezterrica. I, I think that's how her name is pronounced. I'm sorry, I'm not very good with pronunciations, but she's an Argentinian author. And also, we'll get into, and this will all be spoiler free, so if you haven't read this book, you can watch this and I won't ruin anything. The translation was done by Sarah Moses, and that that's of much importance because of how good the translation is. Granted, I don't speak Spanish, so I can't really compare, but I feel like I feel the author's voice coming through very clearly, and that's the mark of a good translation. So I'm glad that she's credited directly. Well, here's a picture of the author, and Sarah Moses is credited directly beneath her, which I think is great. You don't always see things like that. So before we get into the whole story or anything, I just want to comment on the actual quality of the book, which I tend to do because that's an important factor for me. And while I tend to go for hardcovers, I must say that this is a really, really nice paperback. Of course, it doesn't have acid-free paper or anything like that. I don't really think any paperbacks do. But you got these like fold-out kind of things, which basically just, I don't know, it makes the book feel it's very sturdy. It's just a nice copy. So anyways, this is basically a book about a time period, just an alternative take on reality in which some sort of virus or something has rendered all meat toxic to humans. The exception is human meat. So essentially, the government, or the governments, presumably this takes place in Argentina, allows for cannibalism, and it allows for cannibalism in a very clinical way, in the way that we have meat consumption now. There are factory farms. You can go to the store and buy human meat, and that's basically the gist of the book. And we have this main character named Marcos, who is basically like involved. I don't want to get too deep into it, but he's involved in some way. But he as you read it, it's clear to you, the reader, that he has certain reservations with these certain aspects of this society. The way that this book is told, and by the way, if you couldn't tell, this is an extremely short book. It's only 209 pages, so it's basically a novella, and it's a very quick read. Like, you could potentially read this in one sitting. It's a very quick read. It flies by, and I don't think that it really falters at any point in the reading whatsoever. In fact, it's a very gripping read. It urges you to keep going. The thing about this book is that here I'll put it like this. Who would this book be for? Who would it not be for? First, if you're looking for, first off, this book is incredibly dark, and it is gory. It is very violent. It's very bleak, and it's not happy. There's nothing happy in here, or funny, or uplifting. It's a total like bummer the whole way through. So that's, if you don't want that kind of thing. But also, I would consider this a very literary book. Like, I would consider this literary fiction. And the way the story is told, it's like if you're looking for a story that is wrapped up with a bow, or a story that is like very plot heavy, you're not going to get this here. If you're looking for a story that goes deep into what makes this universe, like, oh, I want to know all about this crazy alternate universe where people are meat. I want to know every aspect of this. This book does not get into that. And I don't think that's the point that the author was trying to make with this book. Like, this universe of people being sold as cattle, basically, is just the vehicle for the story to be told, right? Like, it's a short book and you're just given a glimpse. It's like she lets you in on as much as you need to know for this story to take place. So it's one of those kind of books, and it's really cool because every character in this book is really well done and interesting, and I never feel like any one character is like a throwaway character. And the way the story is told is you have this main character, and he has a couple of issues that you come to learn about, and he has a sort of story that you can see where it's going. But there are a couple side plots that are really interesting. And in addition, you get little vignette like scenes, like the way the story is told. It's like you have one main wraparound story, a side story, and then just like little scenes that are just like, each chapter is like a new, like, where are we going to go with this? And sometimes the main character isn't even involved in those scenes, and it's still really interesting. It's just a cool way to tell a book. That's how I prefer my shorter fiction to go. Like I don't need it's like this book is a total package, man. It shows you what you need to see. It leaves you thinking about things, and it shows you a couple cool little like stories, but then brings it back around to the main thing and wraps it up. But it wraps it up in a way that you're not expecting. And I think not just the content of the book, the story, but the actual just the book is a total package. Like it is just such a solid read. And I suspected I would enjoy this a lot. I mean, everybody has their own opinions, but a lot of people that I get a lot of recommendations from and whose opinions I respect enjoyed this. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna like it necessarily. But I figured I would enjoy it. But I was just like, whoa, when I finished it, I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a 4.5 or 5 star read for me. There's almost nothing about this I dislike. There's like a few little awkward lines that made me double take. But other than that, it was pretty much perfect. I mean, it was so solid. It's a banger book, if I could use that terminology. It's such a good read. It's ultra disturbing. And, it's one of those books where, and again, I'm not spoiling it, but like in humans being used as factory farming meat, I think you could probably assume just by hearing that what the main messaging of the book is. But I think as you read it, you come to realize that it's not so surface level as that. That is used as a bigger discussion on things, and it leaves you thinking further than what is presented on the surface. So I at least urge you when you read this book to stop and try to think beyond the surface level theming of the book and try to dig deeper. I think that there's something going on in this book that is deeper than what is presented, which is why I really liked it. And I could be wrong, but that's the way I saw it, and so I enjoyed it for that. So yeah, very, very solid read, phenomenally written, very clinical and cold and unwavering, and puts a spotlight on things and does not shy away from the more difficult things in life. Very good read, highly recommend. Very glad I read it. Infinitely rereadable, really, despite the subject matter. Yeah, take care.